today. For a change, it's not something sweet, but something that can be your breakfast or your dinner. It goes along with many dishes. It is much better to make it at home than buy it in the store. We are making bread rolls today, and it tastes really so much better than store-bought ones. So let's get started. The ingredients that you will need are 3.5 to 4 cups of flour. I have divided this in this bowl. There are 2 cups of flour and so are in this. I have divided it so that we can gradually add more according to the texture of the dough. And then we will need 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, a teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of sugar, a tablespoon of active dry yeast, and 1.5 cups of lukewarm water. So let's get baking. First, we're going to get the yeast ready. So into the 1.5 cups of lukewarm water, first we're going to add the 2 tablespoons of sugar. And we're just going to stir it. Now we can add the tablespoon of active dry yeast. Now we're just going to let this sit for 3 to 5 minutes until it gets frothy. That is important to do when you're using active dry yeast. So while we wait for the yeast to get ready, we can already take 2 cups of flour, and in that we're going to add 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil and a teaspoon of salt. Look, now the yeast is ready and it has that wonderful aroma. So now we're going to pour it into the flour. We can't give the exact amount of flour because it all depends on the texture of the dough. Now everything is kneaded together. So we can add a bit more of flour. If you are kneading the dough by hand, it can approximately take 7 to 8 minutes. Now our yeast dough is slowly forming together. We still need to add a bit more of flour. It has to come easily off the sides of the bowl. But at the same time, you don't want to add too much of flour and make it too dry. my yeast dough still needs a bit more of flour because it is still very sticky. Your yeast dough shouldn't be too sticky or too dry. So my dough needs a tiny bit more of flour. Now you can slowly see how it is coming off the sides of my bowl, but still remember that you have to knead it for a few minutes. Now the consistency of the dough is right. I'm just kneading it so that it rises well. Now we're going to do the test. We're going to take a bit of the dough and roll it on your hand. Not too much should stick to your hand. It should form a ball like this and not stick to your hand that much. So it forms a nice ball and it also doesn't stick to my hand. So that means our dough is ready. The consistency is good. We're just going to knead it a bit more so that we really get the perfect dough. So now we have put the dough into an oiled bowl, and now we're going to let it rise for 45 minutes to an hour or until it doubles in size. Cover it with a clean cloth and put it in a warm place. It's been an hour and my dough has nicely risen. As you can see here, it's wonderfully doubled in size. Now we're just going to slowly punch the dough like this so that the air goes out of it. We are just going to flour the surface lightly so that the dough does not stick. Now we're just going to knead it a bit so that we have a nice and smooth dough. Don't worry if you lose a bit of air. So now we have a wonderful dough. So we're going to divide this now into 12 equal pieces. Divided it into 12 equal pieces. Now we're just going to roll it into a smooth ball. So how I'm doing is this side of my hand is going to be flat on the surface, and then basically it's like a basket sort of, and you just roll it like this. So you should get a round ball. So it should be smooth on the surface, and here if you have a crack or something like this, it's okay. You're supposed to have it. Just we're going to roll it just a bit more. And there we have it, the perfect ball. So now we're going to roll all the others just the same way. Now we're going to put these balls on a 9 into 13-inch baking tray. Now we have all of the 12 equal parts on this, and we are just going to cover it with a cloth and let it rise for another hour. So I'm putting a cloth underneath this that it doesn't get cold from underneath. We're just going to cover it with this kitchen cloth, and we're going to let it rise for another hour until it has doubled in size again. After 45 minutes of the time, just check once with your buns to preheat the oven accordingly. Preheat your oven to 205 degrees Celsius. It's been an hour, so let's check on our buns. Wow, they have really risen well. So now all that's left to do is bake it. And it's a really short period that I bake it. It's 15 to 17 minutes the baking time. So now we're just going to put this into the oven. Now we're going to let it bake for 15 to 17 minutes. See you then. It's been 17 minutes and the kitchen smells wonderfully of the yeast. There we go, wonderful bread. Now I've just melted some butter and I'm going to brush it over the top of the buns. This is optional but highly recommended. Now we're going to let the bread cool down completely and I will meet you to taste it. It has cooled down, so now without further ado, let's taste it. This is so good. It's really fluffy. It is absolutely mouth-watering and it tastes so good. It is really so fluffy. I really recommend that you try this. I'll be back with more recipes and more videos for you guys. See you until next time.